Hello, Yes But Why listeners. This is your host, Amy Jordan. Welcome to Yes But Why, episode 296, my interview with Swedish improviser Maximilian Hansen. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. Yes But Why podcast is sponsored, as always, by Audible. Sign up today for your 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. I've been doing mostly podcast listening on Audible and Spotify recently, so I haven't really read or listened to any of the books that are in my library. And one of my New Year's resolutions is totally to read more for leisure, not just for business, I gotta stop with the reading the marketing books or the improv books or, a book about a story that I'm actively writing. Like, I need to just listen to a story and enjoy it, And so that's what I'm going to put my effort into, is to get into my Audible subscription. And, you should get one too. Listening to books is the cool new thing to do. You maybe have a long drive to work, or maybe you just have some time where you're working out and you'd rather enrich your brain or listen to a fun vampire novel, whatever. But you can do it if you get your own Audible account. Go now to audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy to sign up and get your account today. Yes But Why podcast is also brought to you by podcastcadet.com. Podcastcadet.com is the company that my husband Chris and I run to help podcasters. We've pretty much just made a network of people that do podcasting in nearby cities and, kind of all over. And so what we want to do is, if you want to start a podcast or you want to create something and you just don't know where to start or you need some resources, come to us. We can just help get you started. Maybe we can connect you with some people that can help you do some of the services if maybe you don't know about audio editing or marketing or something. But whatever it is, we just want to help out because we know it's hard, and, balancing it with your job and kids and everything, it's just tough to do. So we want to have your back, like we've had for our friends on our network, HC Universal Network, for a long time. We just want to take care of people. And so contact us. And then if you end up getting a service or a workshop, mention code YBY20 and get 20% off. So let us help you with podcastcadet.com and just make the best podcast that you really can. Whatever you want to do, whatever new thing you want to try, let us help you with podcastcadet.com. One more thing about this episode, you guys, is that this is the first episode of 2022. So I made a new intro, which you are about to hear. It's going to be super fun. And I put it together with some contributions from some previous guests. So I wanted to give a special thank you to all the people that are going to be featured in the new intro that you're about to hear: Amanda Buckley, Ivy Meehan, Lakshmi Priya, Gael Dornoweed Perry, Laura Dornoweed Perry, Ivy Lee, Vishok Verma, Jess Napthine Hodgkinson, and Neil Curran. It was really great of you guys to contribute, and I hope you guys enjoy the new intro. I put it together because I wanted a fresh start, and, I wanted to celebrate all the cool people that have been part of the podcast with me so far. Speaking of which, this week on Yes But Why, I had the chance to chat with Maximilian Hansen, artistic director of Mind Melt, an improv school in Uppsala, Sweden. Listen in as we gab about swimming holes, improv festivals, and travel goals. I now present to you Yes But Why episode 296, Maximilian Hansen on taking the leap toward your next creative adventure. Enjoy! I'm Amy Jordan, and this is
Yes But Why.
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
Yes But Why.
Yes, but why?
Yes, but why?
This is the Yes But Why podcast.
I played make-believe a lot, I think. We would build worlds if we were cops and thieves or whatever. yeah, and I was pretty good at playing by myself as well. Like if I was home alone or whatever, and I would make these worlds up by myself, and I would keep myself busy for quite a while.
Yeah. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, 2 olders and 1 younger.
Oh, okay. But you were still playing by yourself because they were busy.
Yeah, or we didn't always play the same way.
Sure.
Or they might have thought I was a bit irritating, or both.
Were you a big personality as a child? Like doing shows for everybody? Like, I just built this world, let me show it to you. Or was it just more like, you wanted more detail to the games and they're like, it's fine. You're the cop. I'm the robber. And they're like, great. But like, how's the cop's day going? Like,
I don't think I was like controlling it in that way. Like I think I was more of a team player, as I can recall.
That's good.
But quite early, I do have memories of putting on performances, that like doing shows for like my mom. So yeah, that came quite early, I think.
Are you, like me, a person of very little memory? As you're telling me the story, you're like, I think I was like this. I also have very little memory. I have like a handful of stories that I recall from my childhood, but like that's about it. So are you like me? Not so, you're like in the moment, in the past is just the past?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's what I tell myself. Like, oh, my memory's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. And it's turned out like it's become so bad that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't tell myself my memory is bad. Maybe I should like tell myself my memory is good. I just don't use it that much or whatever. Because I don't want my memory to be bad. Like I'm really bad with names. I just keep forgetting names. Like in classes, I'll have the same people for 10 weeks. And after 10 weeks, I'm like, I don't know your names. I try so hard, but I can't remember it. And so like to remember my childhood, yeah, I have a few things here and there, but I don't remember what I ate last weekend.
Totally. No,
Yeah.
Totally. I'm exactly the same. I have had ups and downs with this memory thing for a long time. And my husband, the way he handles it is he goes, listen, you did improv training, and improv training trained your brain to be in the moment so much that it literally took away the energies from the keeping the memory part and put all the effort into live in the moment part. Cause like, I'm great right now. I'm great right here. But like you said, what did I eat last week? I have no idea. What did I do yesterday? I don't know. No. Like, I meet people. Oh my goodness. I meet people from my past who I can tell that we knew each other. Like we probably worked together somewhere. And I thank God for improv for context clues, because you meet somebody and you're like, oh yeah, we are friends from another time in my life. I remember you. Of course I do, when we worked together at the hotel, of course. Yes. No idea. You know what I mean? Like no idea. I have a handful of ideas, a handful of vague memories that like represent each time. You know what I do? I like to think of, like, because I know this happens now, when I'm in a moment, I try to hold it. Like I stop for a second and I go, remember this part. Remember. It works. It works. I get the flashes, and the flashes are always of the spots that I specifically tried to remember. Right.
And do you tell yourself like, okay, remember this as you go forward? So like in a month from now, will you still remember it? Or is it just at that moment that you remember it?
Yeah, I'm here now. I remember it. No, it's like I try to hold on to the emotional, because I'm emotional memory. I can remember how I felt at a certain time, but I can't tell you what happened, what I was wearing, who was there. You know, like I can be like, yeah, I remember feeling like this in junior high. I remember like I switched from a public junior high school to a private high school because I felt bullied. Do I remember any details of any of the bullying? No. Do I have any like scars of any kind from it? No, I just don't. But I remember, because that was a big decision, and because it was sort of like the first time in my life when I was like, I am empowering myself to make a decision for me. So certain things like that. Or my grandmother's house in the summertime was by the ocean. And there was one spot that I would go stand and be like, remember the ocean. Remember this spot. And now I live in Texas, which in the country is nowhere near the ocean, either side. So now when I need to see the ocean, I think of that spot, right? So it's more like cue cards or like little things I can call up with a little like, oh yes, the ocean. I remember my grandmother's house. Like, do I remember any of the times I stood there? No. Do I remember like hanging out with my grandparents? No. Like, I don't have those memories, but I have the certain little details, you know, that I pull out from that thing. I feel like that happens with performances as well. But, but as far as, but you know how people say that negative things stick in your brain? I feel like somebody told me that early on in my life, that like negative stuff is what creates residue in your memory versus positive things. So I always made a point to try to remember when there was a positive thing, because I was told, you know, you just remember all these negative things. So now it's like, okay, let's put focus on this positive thing. I'm enjoying this. Let's not forget that I'm enjoying this thing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. I just, because I had the same thing after performance. I was like, yep, I don't remember anything, or bits and pieces, just a little bit. And I read an article about it today. As a scientist that's been working with improv and how when you're improvising, it activates different parts of your brain. And how afterwards you don't remember because you were in the now, so you don't need to remember. And that makes sense for when we're performing, right? But like for you and me, not remembering our childhood, like were we doing improv for all of our childhood? And what is bad memory? Like there's no way we can, can we compare with other people's memory to like know, yeah, my memory is at 85%, yours at 90.
Yeah.
Do we know?
Yeah. Plus, like, I don't know, there's something good about not remembering stuff. Like I said, I don't have trauma. Now, admittedly, I will tell you and everyone that I have lived a charmed, lovely life. Everyone is mostly nice to me. And when they weren't, my memory got rid of it, right? So I just don't have those things harbored. I'm sure I've had mean people and negative times, but I was like, no, thank you. That's not the path of my life. So I'm just not going to focus on it. And there's something good about that. I mean, even though, thank God, my husband has found peace with it, because it could cause trouble in a marriage. I can see that. But it's also very helpful. I don't remember when we've had a fight last week. I don't know. Maybe we did. Who knows? I don't know. Seems fine now. Am I fine? Yeah. Okay. Great. We're good. Right?
All's good.
Easy going, right? Alan Alda, famous improviser, mentioned that the key to a long marriage is a short memory. So I feel like we're good. I feel like we're good. You know, I mean, because I think he probably has improv brain too. Like he's probably like that, you know, and he's embraced it. He's way older than us, right? So if he's good, you know, I feel like we should just ride that train through to being positive about it.
Yeah. We don't need to remember anything. It's good.
Yes. So I mentioned that I have like snippets, and some of my snippets from my childhood I know are true because other people have told them to me. Or it'll be like, I wonder if this actually happened, or if this was just a memory of a story or something like that. Do you have any little snippets from your life? Something about growing up, or what it was, what your sort of creative journey may have been. How did you get involved with this kind of stuff? You said you did some performances, but did it pop up later?
I don't know. I mean, how it started, that's a big mystery. Early on, I wanted to be, I think I probably wanted to become a cop. The first thing I wanted, or a fireman.
Sure. Save the day.
5. Yeah, yeah. Then I became a bit original, and when I was like 5 or 6, I wanted to become a Native American.
Great.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember I have my earliest memory. I must have been 2 or 3 because of where we were living at the time, and I was hiding under my parents' bed, and I had this toy spider that was like on a not a leash but a cord.
Yeah.
And if you pushed it, it would jump. And so I was hiding under the bed, and when they came in and sat down, I made it jump out in front of them. So they scream a lot. That's one of my first memories. Yeah.
Do you remember it, or were you told the story?
No, I remember that, and I don't think I've ever talked about it with my parents. So actually, that could be one of those that didn't happen.
No, I mean, but where would you have gotten that? Like, that's not like a movie, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not like a common, oh yes, the common trope of the child under the bed with the inflatable spider. Like, no, that seems real.
And I think I remember it so clearly because it felt like such a big success. Because my plan, like the way I remember it is, okay, I'm going to go hide under the bed and I'm going to scare them with the spider. And it worked. I was like, wow. So I think that's why it got like imprinted in my brain, and it just stuck with me ever since.
It was the first plan that came together. Good time.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the second memory I have, I turned it into a bit more of a dramatic person. And I don't know if this was before or after this spider memory, but we were living at the same house. So I would have been about 3 as well. And I got angry with my brother. He'd done something, and we just got angry with each other. So I went up to my mom and I just went, I'm running away from home. Okay. I've had it. I've had it up to here. I'm leaving. And she goes, sure. Do you want some buns and soft drink with you? I'm like, yep. That seems like a good idea. Yes, please. And so she makes it ready for me. And while she's doing that, my brother comes along and he gets envious that I'm gonna have some bun and soft drink. So he wants to come along. And my mom is like, is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, but he has to be quiet. So the person I'm running away from, I'm allowing him to come along, but he has to be quiet. And we're living on the countryside, so we get our stuff and we walk, I don't know, maybe 50 meters from our house, and we sit down next to where the cows are grazing, and I eat my buns and we drink our soft drink in silence, and then we go back home. And that was the first time of many of me running away from home.
With your brother and some snacks.
The rest of them I did by myself.
Oh, well, I hear that.
Yeah.
Were you always in the country running away to the woods, or did you move to a more metropolitan location and then you were headed out to other city spots?
After this, we moved into the city. So then I was, more of in the city.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. I mean, and I wondered, the reason why I asked the question is because a city has so many other sort of interesting pockets to explore, whereas the country, I mean, if you love the country, you're really going to love it. And you're like, oh, I could spend days just staring at a tree. And you're like, hey, good for you, man. But some of us need some action. I like people watching. I like sitting on a bench. There were spots that I recall, and these are memories that have just come back. So, hey, they might come back. I remember going to, I'm from the area of the country near Harvard University. And I always wanted to go there when I was a kid. I didn't. But I really wanted to when I was a kid. So I would take the train from my house to the place where Harvard was. And I would sit on a bench and just look at Harvard and be like, yeah, that's where I'm going to be. That's my place. I'm with the smart people over there. And the benefit of the other part was I was super focused on being with the smart people in Harvard, but in Harvard Square, the area just outside, was also very like hip and wild. So there were like kids on skateboards and people with like green mohawks and like wild outfits and stuff. And so I was like, ooh, what's this? I like this. And that's what got me into the freaks. Like that's what led me, my whole rest of my life was like, wait a minute. Green hair and you're wearing an excessive amount of safety pins on your jacket, I think we're best friends. Like my seeking out, it was almost like, I guess in my mind, it was like, you know, Ivy League adjacent. You know, you can have pink hair outside of Harvard. Maybe not inside. I don't know. They never let me in, so I still don't know.
What?
They don't let you wander around if they don't let you in. And I was not the smartest in my school, so I didn't get in. But that's okay. I'm not bitter. No, it led me to Texas, and now I am here. My college led me here, and so now I was brought to the beautiful haven that is Austin, Texas, which is a beautiful improv haven.
Cool. We need to rewind a little bit. Because, you mentioned when you were younger, you were living by the ocean. But now there's no ocean, there's no swimming. Where do you go swimming? Because Texas is pretty hot, right? And for me, going swimming is like, that's very important. I could not imagine living in a place where I cannot go swim.
Yes. So Austin is in the middle of the state. So there's no ocean or gulf or anything. But we've got lakes, we've got rivers. And so the downtown, the central area is right off a river. Lots of boats are there. You can do like paddle boats. You can do canoes. That's where you do water sports. And then there are other spots that are natural. There's like a natural pool. I don't even know how it exists, but it's called Barton Springs. And it's just this hole in the ground where the water is cool all year round. So it's like very chilly. Like when it's very, very hot in the summer, you jump in and you're like, you know, and it's great. It's great because it's super hot and you're like, I'm dying. Oh God. And you jump in and you're like, who's freezing? And you're like, oh, I love this switch. That's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for extremes. But then there's also public pools. Austin is a wonderful city for municipal, like, public spaces. Like there's public pools and there's public parks everywhere. And there's so much. I should cut this right out of the podcast because too many people are moving here right now and I'm making it sound great. But for you to know, it's great. There's a lot of beautiful green spaces and a lot of water put there by people who were like you, who were like, it seems hot. I'd like to swim. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, so then there's a lot of really big, awesome pools. And we go to all of them. I like to hop different ones, you know.
Like pool hopping instead of bar hopping.
Yeah. Well, I have a little kid. I have a 4-year-old. He's in school right now. But in the summer, me and my mom friends just, you know, pool hop with our kids during the day. So it's like, hey, it's Monday. Let's go over here. Okay. And then we all meet there. And then it's, oh, hey, it's Tuesday, different spot. Okay. And we all go over to the other spot. And it's
That's
just, you know, yeah, right? I mean, if you're going to have kids being wild, you might as well throw them in some water and have them play. And also friends are helpful. So that's both for me and for the kids. So I'm like, okay, go ahead and swim. We're going to talk. And that's nice, you know. Yeah. But lots of water there. And then Houston, which is another major city in Texas, it's driving distance, like it's close enough to the Gulf of Mexico, and it's a little murky, but you can swim in it. And it's, you know, how a lot of sort of shipping channels come in as well, but there's a lot of cool beaches right there. And Texas is a big place, so you get used to the fact that you're going to have to drive 2 or 3 hours to get anywhere. So when people are like, yeah, I went to the beach, and you're like, oh, cool, because it's 3 hours away, but we're fine with it. I was like, well, I just got up early. It's fine. I got up at 6, got there at 9. Great. Spent a few hours, came back. And, you know, in other spots that are smaller, they're like, what? They're like, 3 hours? If it's longer than 10 minutes, I won't go. And I'm like, no, that's not the way we do it here. It's like, yeah, I'm like, 3 hours? Yeah, it's close. My husband and I went to vacation in another part of Texas, and it was a 14-hour drive. And we were like, yes.
What?
We were like, let's do it. We like went right into the middle of a desert, and it was like, you know, mountains and desert, no water to be found anywhere. Awesome. So cool.
It's just the distances are so different. If you drive for 14 hours here in Sweden, you're practically on the other side of the country. Like,
good.
Not really, but yeah, you'll do pretty much all of it. Yeah.
Well, good. No, that's good. Now I'm like, great, I can handle a road trip then. Let's do it. Let's do it. Road trip right around. Get up in it.
Yep.
When you moved from the country to the city, was it close by? Was it like, oh, we live in just outside of the city and then we just moved into the city, or was it a big move?
Well, I was 4, so I don't remember much of it.
Sure.
It was pretty close. Like, we moved into the closest city.
Yeah.
It was probably 10 kilometers away or 15 kilometers away.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, I wondered, you know, because you mentioned how large the country is, right? So I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe you went far away. Do you live far away from where you grew up right now?
No, because when I was growing up, I was like, you're not allowed to move cities. You can't do that. Like, you move within your city. Oh. I could grasp that because we did that. We moved around quite a lot in my city. But then my dad had a friend who moved to another town. I was like, what? You can't do that. Like, how does that even work? I have since realized that you can, and I have. And I moved abroad as well and back again. But now I live about an hour from where I grew up.
I like this idea that you remember this part. We're talking about not having memories, and then you're like, but I remember that my theory was you can't move out, because those are the genius theories. See, those are the details that I like pulling from my childhood, right? Like, what was it about me that led me to being me, right? And I love this idea of like, that you were convinced you're not allowed to move outside of your town. You can move around it. And I like the idea that it was because you did move. Oh, man.
Like, you went to visit other cities, and then you come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, man, it is wild. Now we have the ability. You can do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. That's a thing that I feel like people don't know. Maybe I should say that on the podcast. Guys, you can do whatever you want. You know that, right? Just in case it was unclear, even if everyone in your family and, I don't know, maybe government tells you can't, it's not true. You really can. You can do whatever you want.
And also, if you think it doesn't apply to you, it applies to you as well.
Yeah. Live your life. Be who you want to be. So to that end, I guess my question for you is, what is it, at what point in your life do you think you knew you wanted to get involved with performance? You wanted to get involved with improv and theater. When did that grab hold of you?
When I was in high school, I think it is, I was in 8th or 9th grade, and we had to choose what we wanted to study for our last 3 years in school. Oh. And I was like, well, the only thing I really know is theater, because during high school we had to play around a little bit, like with like theater or music or just different crafts. And I was like, well, theater's fun, so I chose that. I don't know if I had any idea of like, that's what I'm going to do, but that's the only thing I feel like I know and I want to spend my time with.
Sure. I don't think a lot of people know that it's an actual career path. In fact, part of what I do this podcast is because people aren't aware that it's a real thing you can actually do. Like, a lot of people just think, oh, that's just something you do for funsies, or, oh, there's 12 people that do theater, which, I mean, I understand. If only thing you see is Broadway, you're right. Those same 12 people are doing every role. I don't know how they got that gig, but they got it. But the rest of the world exists, and you can do theater and create shows anywhere with anything. And it really is a possibility for your life.
That's something I've started to realize more like in the recent years. So like, because for a long time it was like, yeah, you're not really an actor unless you're famous. Like that was the view of if you're famous, then you're an actor, like in the movies or whatever.
Yeah.
But now just realizing, there's tons of way to do whatever you want to do without being that little niche. Like there's plenty of things going on here in Uppsala, and you can just do it.
Yeah.
It's still hard work, but you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is definitely different varying levels of being paid for it. And I get that Brad Pitt probably makes more than we do, but just different jobs for different companies. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he has his job, and his job requires a lot of, a team, I bet, lawyers, agents. I mean, think of the probably hundreds of people whose job it is to make sure he continues to be, sexy frontman of movies, right? Like there's a whole business behind that, right? Yeah, sure. He's taken home millions of dollars, but he likely has to hand it out to some other people who are helping him get to that place, right? And I think that's something that people don't really vibe with when they want to be an actor or they want to perform, is the idea of the teamwork aspect. There's so much that makes you have to do things on your own. You need to look a certain way. You need to present yourself a certain way. You need to emote and act and look a certain way to do things. But they don't say you also need a team of 5 to 6 people to help you out with various things in your life, because it's literally impossible for you to do all of these things. So you need a manager and an agent and probably a friend or two to have your back and go, hey, don't do that. And, other people to help you with promotion and marketing. I mean, I didn't think about these things even recently. I just had a marketing meeting about how to better push my own theater stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably should do that. Right? I didn't know all of this was part of it. Right. So I feel like the larger sense of the work that is required is both discounted by the people who are want to do it but don't have the willingness to put in the effort for it, where they're like, it's not a real job, and you're like, okay, well, I mean, it really is. I mean, it actually is. And it has very many levels, right? Sometimes, and all over the country, it's different levels of different things. It's a job. But then also, they don't give credit to the larger machine of it. I'm sure. So you're in Sweden. You're running an improv theater, but you're not alone, are you?
Well, I think calling it a theater might be overstating it. But I work like a freelancer. Is supposed to be the right term, but yeah, so it's my own company. For the moment, it's just me, except for when I'm putting on events. Then I have some people helping out, but I don't want it to be just me.
Right.
I started it shortly before the pandemic hit.
Right.
So now it's been about 2 years of laying low. But the idea was always that yeah, sure, I'm starting it and I know what I want to do and I'm happy to do it. But eventually I want other people to come in. I'm really working to build more of a community.
Sure.
Here in Uppsala. And that's the plan. And I don't want the community to be me doing things. I want it to be us doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like you're talking about your events, though. I mean, you can't do the actual, like, yes, you are the spearhead of this situation and you are working to develop new shows and get things going. But like when you do the events, you require other people. You need to have, you can't just be there by yourself. You need various people to take different roles, and every role is just as important. From the person on stage doing the acting, to the person taking the tickets, to the people welcoming people in and telling them where to sit. These are all essential parts. And I say that from literally doing so much theater where one of those details was not taken care of. And you're like, why are they all sitting over on the left side? Why? Can someone tell them not to sit there? That's the worst seat. But you get a theater, you get like people and you get a team, and then there's like, oh no, hey everyone, let's all be over here. And this is where the visuals are going to be right here in the center, that kind of stuff, people don't know. They just go wherever, do whatever they want. They walk in. Is this the right place? And you're like, shh, there's a show going on. You need people to help this kind of thing, to work together. And also good with improv, other people, super helpful in the team building process, right? So I feel like we get real philosophical, and I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I'm going to bring us back to you mentioning that you're in high school and you're like, I only know theater, so this is what I'm going to do. Do you have a memory of a time when you finally got to the point when you went past, this seems like something that I'd like to do, to I've made the decision, this is the thing I'm going to put all my effort into? I
don't know if I've done that.
No. Okay, great.
Honestly,
good.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation right now. How's that?
Yeah. No, I think I make that decision and then I take it back and I make it again. So I think it's that kind of thing. Because I think I probably took it in high school the first time. Like, yeah, I like this. I'd like to do this. I don't know how I would be able to do this. And then started gymnasium. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Of course I want to do this. I still don't know if I can do it. I don't know if it's possible. The competition is really hard. Am I good enough? Yada, yada, yada. And then when I graduated and we started a group and we started doing improv, like, yeah, this is great. And at that point, I was like, I'm happy. I know I have to, at that point, it was all improv. I don't care about theater. I want to do improv. And at that point, I was like, as long as I can do improv on the side, I'm happy. I just want to keep doing it. But if I have another job, I'm happy. And that went on for a few years. And I was like, no, I think I would prefer just doing improv. And so then, a few years ago, I changed again. And I was like, oh, maybe I should get a profession. So I started studying. So I studied archaeology. Became an archaeologist. Yeah. And while I was doing it, I was like, no, I enjoy this, but I think I want to do improv. So I switched again, and I started my company, and then I only did improv for a while, and then Corona hit, and now I'm doing a bit of both again.
Now you're a part-time archaeologist.
Now I'm working at a dance school on the side, and
but still
and
art.
My company as well. Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
That felt like a big win, actually. Like all the years and experience of working with improv and the theater, I can actually put that into this dance school, and which is awesome.
Oh, dance is so similar to improv, and the crowds don't usually hang, but like they're so, like, mentally, the idea of it, like if you can watch an improv show, good or bad, and enjoy it, then you can watch dance and really get into it, because the part of your brain that is able to connect the ideas and watch what the people are communicating with each other is very similar. It's very similar. I mean, the beauty of an improv scene, I think, is watching the two layers of communication. There's what you're telling the audience, and then what you guys are telling each other. And so when you see that without even words in a dance, it's like, oh, yes. Like, you know, there's just like little moments, you know, like, oh, they're about to do a lift. I can tell because of the way he's leaned in. Like, oh, yeah, this is so great. Yeah, I don't know. I never did. I did a little bit of amateur dance here and there during my life, but I did a lot of tech. I was a stage manager and a lighting designer, so I definitely was involved with watching people do a lot of dance. And after you watch the same dance, you kind of notice little things. And I was like, oh, I see, you know.
It's really interesting. And I had a friend of mine, she also works there, and she's a dancer, and she's been joining a few of my improv workshops. And it was really interesting after one of them, because we did this exercise. I think we did angel and demons, where like you choose two others and you have to keep your angel between you and your devil. We did one of those sort of varieties. And after the workshop, she went up to me like, hey, we do this in dance classes, but we do it this way. Like it was exactly the same exercise, but for them, they had another, the outcome was supposed to be a bit different than from when we did it in the workshop. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't know who came up with it first. I reckon it was probably the dancers. And then the improv just kind of went in and oh, this works for us as well. But I think
who knows
really
who comes
cool.
up with any of the things. I mean, there are so many that I've tried to read as many books as I can to figure out the like true essential history of improv. And it's like, yeah, but somebody had to tell her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a bunch of things where you're like, where did that get pulled from? You know, but you're right. Like dance is forever. I mean, like there's been dance since the cavemen came outside and then they danced to the sun. But like, you know what I mean? Like it's so much more primal, but I do the like action of communicating and the exercises and stuff. Hard to know. I mean, improv and dance are so similar. What a great side gig. Like what a great other gig to have.
And where's the line? Like, yeah, this is dancing and now it's improv. Like that's also interesting. And I'm not a dancer. I just administer everything.
It sounds like you are though.
Well, I have started dancing there, which is great fun. And I have a newfound respect for ballet, which is tough and awesome.
Yeah, there's all sorts of wacky outfits you gotta wear and shoes that are uncomfortable that really help, I guess. It looks cool. It looks cool.
I haven't got that far, but just the movement themselves are out of this world.
Even just stretching your leg up on the bar. It's like, whoa! I didn't know my leg got that high. What?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love the archaeology that you mentioned. It really made me think about how archaeology is about storytelling and about pulling out elements of a story and figuring out how they come together, and how similar that is to improv and storytelling and creating stuff. Is there a project that you've done in your life that really speaks to the kind of shows that you want to do, that are like, when you did it, you were like, this is me. This is the kind I want to be. This is what I want to do.
I love short form. It's what I've been doing most. And I love the quick fixes. Just here's another scene, done. Let's do another one, done. Long form's awesome as well. I love that too. But yeah, for the longest time, short form's been my thing. So technically all short form shows has been like, yeah, this is me. But, you know, having done some of the techniques over and over and over again, it's not the same challenge. And then it's not as fun for me or the audience. So a a friend of mine, we started a show together where we don't use any techniques that already exist. We meet up once before a show and we just talk it through, like what's a technique that could be, and we just make one up on the spot, and then we do the show and we do all the techniques once and then never again, and then we come up with some on the spot, like during the show, just make up a new technique there, and that's been really fun to do. So that also feels like, I think now that feels more like me, because all the short form techniques that we all know exist, I like that and I can do that. But now it's like, oh, I don't know how this works. What's going to happen? Is this going to go home or not? And so I like that uncertainty again, and just trusting that, yeah, it's gonna work out.
Absolutely. Improvisers are like the kind of people who would love to jump out of a plane, but are like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But what's the next most crazy thing that I could do? Oh, do a full show for an hour with no plan? Got it. Right? Like that's definitely, it's like the daredevils of the world have found another way to process and figure that out. Cause I love the idea that you're like, listen, I figured out short form. To everyone listening who hasn't figured out short form, you'll get there. You'll get there too. You'll break through, and someday you'll be like, I get it. Don't worry. It's really a matter of reps, and Maximilian clearly got some reps, right? So I love that. I love that you've moved, because I get it. I feel the same way. Like, I'm like, if I do another series of, if I do another montage of long form scenes, it's like, yeah, all right, I get it. Cool. What else? I did musical improv for a while, and that was so outside of what I thought I could do that it was exciting. And then it ended, and I was like, and now I'm like looking for it again, but it's so much harder to connect for various reasons. But it's definitely like, I love that thing. It's like we're looking for something that makes us a little nervous, that makes us a little uncertain, right?
Yeah. I think we need, or at least it seems like you and I need it, at least. I'm sure other people need it as well. Yeah. To be like, oh, is this going to work out? Yeah. Just to be unsure. Yeah. Keep us on the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also very helpful for like saving your real life to have this platform to try out a bunch of weird reactions and characters and people, because like there are definitely, when I haven't performed in a while, like I mentioned earlier, like I start doing characters in the grocery store. I'm like making weird friends with strangers on the street. Like people are like, you need to stop doing that. And I'm like, oh, you're right. I need to get on stage again because I need to try these things out. I mean, I used to tell my students in like early level improv, I go, listen, before you really get into the artistry of this, feel free to use it as therapy. Like if you need to talk to your roommate about something, make that the scene. Like nobody has a problem if you walk in and you're like, if you leave another moldy cheese ball in the middle of this fridge, I'm going to explode. Great. Let's have that conversation. Let's have that scene. Right. And then maybe you can work it out in your head without having to talk to the roommate about the moldy cheese ball. You just throw that away. Away. He doesn't know it's there, clearly. But like, helps you work through stuff, figure things out. I've had people work out like work things where like in their job, they were dealing with a weird, employee, like somebody that they were working with who was like being crazy to them. And I was like, let's talk about it. Okay, John will be that guy. Let's have that scene. What would you say to him? And it just helps. It just helps. Like in the early stages of improv, like we're talking about, like you and I have done it a lot. So we know how to use this therapy. We know how to do basic scenes. We know how to play stuff. Now we're looking for like, how can you hang me off a ledge a little? And so I'm looking for like a Bear Grylls experience without the actually climbing a mountain. Can we do it? Yes. Like let's throw a wrench right in. In fact, sometimes I think that's, you see a show and you're like, oh, they were bored. So they were like, what we're going to do is we're going to let you guys decide 1,000 things about what we're going to do in our show. And then we're just going to do that. And I was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. I'm into it. I was like, this could go terribly wrong. Let's do it.
Yay.
But early level improvisers, you know, you kind of gotta be like, my first class of level 1 is always like, okay, sit down and have a scene. And they're like, about what? And I'm like, you've never met. Talk. Like, just talk to each other. It doesn't matter. You're meeting each other for the first time. Go. Like, it doesn't matter what the scene's about. It does not need to be funny. We just need you to know how to speak first. Number 1, speak.
Yeah.
Right?
I wonder if there's a roof, because like what you mentioned earlier, and for me is like, well, we need more. The fix isn't enough. Like we're okay with what we learned and what we've done over the years. Now we want to make it harder for us. But when we're first starting out, like, you know, first improv class, we have that same thing. Like when I see in a beginner's class, my students, the first 15 minutes when they're like, oh, wow, this is so cool. I'm really nervous, but this is awesome. So they have that need filled. And then as the course goes on, they feel very confident with those first exercises we did. But then the later ones with new scenes or whatever, they're like, ooh, this is nervous again. And then they nail it and like, whoa. And so that always goes up, our experience and what we're comfortable with. And so now, like, I don't know how long you've been going, 20 years or whatever. We're trying to break that roof again. When does it stop? Like, does it, or will we eventually just jump off a ceiling for a scene?
I think if you see each individual person that you play with as another, like, interesting thing to learn and play with, then I think that there's billions of people you can do scenes with. It's unlikely that you're going to do a scene with every person on earth. So I think there's no ceiling, because there's the games, there's the scenario, like there's games to play. Okay, there's only so many games. Great. You can make up new games if you want, but there's a ceiling to that. What about forms, improv forms? Yep, there's quite a few. People are inventing them every day, so you can do those, as many as you'd like, but you are going to end with that. But I think at a certain point, the fascinating part for me anyway, about doing improv is about really looking and learning each person that I'm in a scene with. What do I know about them? What are they likely to bring into this scene? What kind of jokes do I know that they like to do? In the last 4 scenes I've watched them do, what have been their moves, so I can learn how they usually move? And then how can I push them off of their comfort zone? How can we adjust and do things differently? What are the things that I do that I like doing? How can I do things that are not like that? You know, what kind of characters do I usually lean towards? Great. I'm going to try for other people entirely. And then there's life experience. So you change your viewpoint, right? You and I are both married. Married life is different than single life. So the viewpoint that we have of relationships, even on stage, is now different. And we have a different view of what's going on. We have a different way we can grasp. We are aware there is a larger breadth of human relationship that's not just, hey, you want to date? So we can develop those relationships. You can develop what's going on. And I think, even though it's kind of sad, I don't know. Knowledge isn't sad, I guess. Every year I get older, I realize the world is a crazier place than it was the year before. And I'm like, wait, that's real? People do that? And then they go, yes, they do in these places. And you're like, whoa. So that opens up to, oh, well, literally anything's possible. So let's do a scene about anything. You know, what crazy thing that you totally can't imagine would happen in real life. It happened last week in Illinois. Sorry, everybody. But you're doing a scene about it. You know, you're trying to be like, what would a person, how would you even imagine? The other part too is this empathetic understanding of people. So you're in scenes with people and you're trying to understand them so that you can see the world through their eyes. But then you're also using that skill to become a different person. I'm not me when I'm on stage. I'm living the life of someone else. So who's that other person and what is their life like? How do they react to things? And I think that there is no end to different experiences and different people that you can, you know, connect with and talk about. I mean, even this podcast, like we said, I'm almost to 300 episodes. It's 300 people that I've talked to, and I don't feel like I've had all the conversations. I feel like there's so many more points of view. There's so many more ways to deal with even just this one topic, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Plus, the doors are open to our international friends now. The way you do improv is very likely different than the way I was taught how to do improv, right? So even though you and I come in with similar vocabularies, if we did one scene with each other, we'd probably finish and go like, oh, okay, so that's what you guys do? All right, well, we do this thing. And, you know, because it's just slightly different and we'll react in different ways. And so now that the doors are swung open and unlikely to close to the international connections, and being aware that every country, even every city, does it differently slightly based on wherever their inspiration came from. Like, oh, are we all reading the same books? No, we're not. The person who first came into that town and introduced improv, whatever book they read is going to be what starts the thing. That doesn't mean that, you know, John Stone was everywhere, Viola Spolin was everywhere. No, they did not travel that much. They did a little, but not a lot. They're not in every country. So it's who was there that came in and was like, hey, you guys heard about improv? I'm like, no, we haven't. Well, I just read this book, you know, and then whatever that might be, they call it improv, but maybe it's something, you know, maybe it's devised theater or playback theater or different kinds of styles that are sort of enmeshed in the world. I don't know. I don't think there's a ceiling. Long story short, I don't think there's a ceiling.
Yeah. Something that amazes me is that you know, however many scenes we have performed. I don't know about you, but sure, my memory is a bit bad, but I cannot remember having played the same scene twice. And there's been a lot of scenes, so many. At one point, it was almost the same scene. We got this sort of the same suggestion from two different audiences of being at a gynecologist. So they started off sort of the same and then went different. But that's the only time I think I've been close to playing the same thing twice. Otherwise, it's always been widely different, which is quite amazing because I mean, I don't see how that's possible, but because it's just been so many scenes.
Yeah, definitely the way that you take them is different. I would say that there's maybe 2 or 3 basic things that I see in my level 1, right? Like you can't get through a level 1 class without multiple scenes taking place at a funeral. You're like, yeah. All right. Makes sense. But that, I think from my point of view of teaching, is my opening lesson is comedy is contrast. So whenever I open with that, I'm asking them to make decisions that are a sharp contrast from one thing to another. I'd like something funny to happen. Cool. Where's a weird place for a funny thing to happen? Funeral. So it comes up a lot because I'm trying to have them juxtapose 2 different ideas in a scene and then play realistically in that moment. But once you establish the 2 things that are just off from each other, you don't need to flesh them out too deeply for the joke to be there. Yeah. But that's just me. And that's my little style, right? So like, I don't know if that's something that you guys even talk about, comedy. Now you do short form, so that's usually comedy, but is your improv that your community is building? And by community, I mean you and your troupe. Do you like focus on comedy, or is it like theatrical improv? Are you trying to do dramatic scenes?
So I enjoy both. And when I teach, I specifically try and tell people, don't try to be funny. It's gonna happen anyway. Like most of them want it to be funny, and I like that too. So I help them get there. So in a way, yeah, we work towards it being comedy, but not specifically like, yeah, this is comedy. Like, not try to say it in English, but yeah, we're it's going that way because I think it just automatically very often becomes funny. And so I don't think you don't need to work hard to get there. Like, try not to, and you'll make it, kind of.
Yeah.
But I love it when it can be a bit more like life as well, or dramatic, or the ups and downs. It's great. I love all of it.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. So when you were developing your ideas for your own style, your own business, what for you is the effort that you're putting out there into the community? Like, did you create your freelance business as an improv teacher because as like the town already has this, so I'm going to do this? Or did you create it like, I'm into this and there aren't a lot of people that do this, so I will try to put out, classes for people that might be interested in it? How's the connection with the larger community in your efforts?
So my idea was, I was in this other group that we started well over 10 years ago. And while I was there, I started courses for that group. And that was the normal level 1, 2, 3. And so when I wanted to do something a bit different and I left and I started my own company, I knew that was already there. There's no point in me doing that again. Uppsala is too small for that. And I also knew about what else was in Uppsala. There was another course on the other side of town doing sort of the same thing. And this is a big student town. So regularly students will meet up and improvise together. So I knew that was happening as well. And I didn't want to be in the way of any of that. I just wanted to add to it. And the community, the way I saw it was a bit all over the place. Like some met over there, some met over there. And so I wanted to try and create a possibility for people to come together at one spot. And so I chose a day in the week where nothing else improvise was going on usually. And so it wouldn't be in the way of anything else. And that was the idea. So there was some going on, not a lot, but a bit. And I wanted to try and give something new that wasn't already there. So the courses I do tend to be towards kids or more advanced courses for adults. Because other stuff is already here.
That's nice of you.
Thanks.
Well, it's nice to acknowledge what's already happening in your community, and instead of creating a point of competition, to build onto the existing community and say the town has enough early level 1 beginners improv places or ImproJams or improv schools that are geared toward performing a specific style. So where are there people looking for improv that maybe I can provide to them? Kids, a great resource for improv. And then also adults who have taken a bunch of classes. That actually was a big thing in Austin for a while. There were 5 improv theaters doing 5 levels of improv, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then once you reached that was it. Now, some students would go and take the 5 classes in every single one of the schools in town. They'd just like learn it all and then start at the beginning again and learn it all. And now each school was slightly different, but not that different. And so there's actually an award that we give out to the people who finish all of the schools. Like if you take all the classes and you like graduate on the last, when you finish and graduate at the final school, everybody comes together and says like, this guy, yeah. And like, it's all over social media about like how they won this award because they finally did it. Like,
that's awesome.
But it's funny. There's only, right now, I think there's 2, maybe 3 guys in the whole town that have done it. And they're a beautiful resource for the schools because they can be like, tell us what's different. Tell us what this school could do better than that. You know, like they're the only ones that can truly compare. Right. But once we realized there were people who were so interested in learning that they just kept going back and taking these other classes, even though they already learned it, they'd go back to 101 and be like, great, tell me again, what's yes and? I want to learn. Right. And they would honor the newness. You know, they weren't like a person who walks in and is like, listen, I already know this. Like they'd start again, they'd do it. But then we realized in the town that we need upper level classes. We need groups that are just providing, okay, there's hundreds of people in this town that have already taken classes, hundreds of hours of classes. They need upper level stuff, right? And there just wasn't anything until Cold Town started doing their program for, if you graduated somewhere, great, come take this class. We'll teach you how to do a bunch of other things that you know, to build on to what you already know. So, I mean, it is smart. And I know that it sounded like I was just giving you like a random compliment, like, hey, good job. But it was like, no, you filled in where there needed to be, as people needed it. They were like, okay, I already took classes here and there. What's next? Upper level workshops. Okay, you know how to do everything? Great. I'm going to throw a wrench at you, see how it goes. I'm going to make it more complicated. And that's the beauteous thing we were talking about earlier. We want, there is no ceiling. There's so many wild things that we can try and explore. It's really just a matter of, okay, this time we're going to focus on this thing. Like, man, won't it be exciting? And this is going to happen because your brain is going to connect on this so intensely. I mean, the name of your group is Mind Melt. You are connected. Like, your dance stuff is going to permeate into an improv class. Like, I know that within a few months, I'm going to see on your page, like, a thing about how there's an improv workshop that's silent, involving just dance and movement. Like, yeah, right? Because that's what the ideas that are in your mind right now, that's what's flowing around. And that's what's going to come out. You're going to be like, okay, guys, I have a cool new workshop for you. And the town's going to love it because they're done with doing short form scenes and, you know, basic dramatic improv montages. Now they're looking for something wild and you get to give them those wild things. So that's really great. That's really great. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned earlier, that you took classes with a group. What was the name of the theater or company that you took the classes at? Just to give them a shout out. Do you remember?
No, we started a group many years ago, and there were no classes here in Uppsala at the time, so we did it ourselves. We had our old theater teacher from school. She joined us, and she sort of ran our sessions.
Oh, okay. So you guys like picked an improv book and were like, okay, let's learn this, and then you and your teacher kind of made the classes together?
Not even that. No, we didn't even have a book. For the longest time, we knew very little all of our knowledge came from this theater teacher we had, and her knowledge came from Keith Johnston. So that's sort of where that came from. And then it was in 2014. I was like, oh yeah, I was in Philadelphia with a friend of mine, and we we improvise every now and then, and it was a show that we joined that evening, and somehow we heard. I think the guy running the show talked about festivals. I had never heard about an improv festival at that point.
Right.
I think maybe I probably heard about Chicago, but that was it. And then it turned out there was one in Finland not too long after that. And so we contacted them, and they had a dropout. So we just, okay, well, we come. And so that was the summer of 2014. I went to the improv festival in Tampere. And that opened my mind so much, because before then, it's just, we've been with our little group, and that was it. But then when I got there, I was like, wow, there's a lot more. At that festival, I met your former Austin inhabitant, Kevin Miller, for instance. So it was just, the world just started connecting. I met all these people from all over the world. I was like, wow.
I love that you both know him, and that you know that he doesn't live in Austin anymore. Like, that's how connected the community is. That it's like, I met him at a festival, and now I am fully aware that he has moved away. Like, I love how connected everybody is. Yeah.
and now, going from festival to festival every now and then, you sort of meet the same people every now and then, like, oh, hey. Yeah. So that's when I started realizing that there's a lot more to it, to improv, and see, like what you talked about before, how we do differently depending on where we live in the world and where our influences are from. Starting to see that, that was a big eye opener.
Wow. First of all, good for your theater teacher for like sticking with you guys and like helping you develop the improv when it was something that like clearly she was interested in and there really weren't people doing it. So when she found a group of people that were like, hey, we might want to do this improv. Could you help us out with it? It's like, yes. And that stuff is real and great and wonderful. And to the people who are listening who are like, I don't have anything in my town. I don't know how to do this or what's going on. You can read a book yourself, or you can find somebody who did read a book and then like you guys all work together. Like it can be as grassroots as that. It can be as we just figured it out off the fly, or the beauty of the internet. I watched 3 YouTube videos and now I know how to improv. Let's do it. Great. Keep doing it. Whatever it is that you've learned, try that for a while and then watch new videos or meet new people. But then I love this idea. By the way, I love how super off the cuff you are about like in 2014, where was I? Oh, Philadelphia. Oh, no big deal. Just a little Sweden to Philadelphia trip. It's fine. World traveler goes out. And then I love the idea that it's like, that's when you learned what improv festivals were. Also, guys listening, that's a thing. I didn't know it for years that you could just travel around and like perform improv or just go to an improv festival and take workshops with people from all over. What? Amazing.
So
Are you
awesome.
kidding? Like, yeah, it's amazing that that's a thing. It's all over the world, everywhere. Think of a country right now. It's there. They have it, right? They've got an improv festival. It's that prevalent these days. Like it's such a big deal and it's available to you. You might have to drive, hopefully not 14 hours, but you might have to take a small drive to get to this festival, but you meet people. It's like such a great connection of like other people who also like improv, like, oh my God, all my people are here. And you meet people from all over the world, take workshops. I mean, the first few, like international people that I had on this podcast were people that I met from festivals, that I met from, oh, they taught a workshop. Oh, I met them. Or they came to town, and people like Kevin Miller were like, hey, you should meet this person. Like, oh, okay. Hello. You know, I mean, yeah, that's how I got connected with the, Dornavered Perrys for sure. But like that and then you're right. The other beautiful thing, pre-COVID, I was noticing, because I was starting my international interviews, I was noticing that there really was like a gang of people. Let's call them not a gang. That sounds negative. A gaggle, let's say, of improvisers. A gaggle. Let's go for that. It's gentler, sweeter. Of improvisers that were at all the international festivals. Like these people are always here. These people are always here. They're always traveling around, and they're the main people who you see regularly, right? And I was like, oh, there's a crowd. And what's fun is I noticed, but not all of them noticed, because because I would talk to them and they'd be like, oh, I went to X, Y, and Z. Oh, great. I'd write it down. I talked to the next person. Oh, I went to X, Y, and Z. Oh, interesting. And then, oh yeah, every year I go to X, Y, and Z. What? Oh, okay. And then I was like, do you guys know that you're all at the same festivals all the time? And they're like, what? No, we didn't know that. Like people, you know, making connections in that way. It's the beauty of improv. Pulling it out. Beauty of improv, I think, is making connections, small connections or big connections. Whether it's little things in a scene, or it's like you see somebody holding something and you're like, that's my mug, take it out of your hand. And then you get to create something that's not there. Or big things where you're like, okay, I know that she's from this place and I know this about the town that she's from. So I'm going to throw that out, and all of a sudden everyone's going to be like, how did you know that? What? Like, you know, big things in that way. It's the beauty of connecting with people from all over and finding that community in an improv festival. Chef's kiss. Love it. So good.
Yes.
Absolutely. So for you, what is your next move? Like, what is your hope for your next journey in improv? The world is, I don't know what it's like in Sweden. We are still fully masked, and there's only a few in-person improv classes. There's a lot still online here in the US. But what about you guys? Are you meeting in person? Are you finding that you're able to make connections in your community and get out there? Or if not now, do you have a timeline in your mind about what you want to do and how that's going to develop for you?
Right. So yeah, it's opened up a bit more here. And it's been like that since the summer. But now we're getting a bit more restrictions again. Things are still sort of going on, but you're supposed to take it easy and keep your distance and stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. It might get worse before the winter ends. But my hope is I'm this coming Tuesday. Doesn't make sense when you're listening to this, but putting on one of the community nights that I'm doing here in Uppsala, which will be the first one for over a year. And what I'm hoping is that I can keep doing them once a month in the new year. So hopefully, when you're actually listening to this, there's another event coming up. And along with that, more courses and shows. And something that I've loved since I started my company was that I was able to get people to come over here and do workshops. That's been brilliant to show the people living here that there's so much more to improv. And so I'm hoping to get that happening again, because that's been amazing. Just get an international guest to come over and do a show and a workshop. It's brilliant.
Yeah, great. All you got to do is be from another country. You don't even have to be good at improv. It doesn't matter. You swing right in. You're like, hey, what's up? Yes, and everybody. How's it going?
Just put on a bit of accent. You're in.
Right?
But yeah, that's what I'm hoping for 2022. Just get back into it. Get to do it all again.
Yeah, absolutely. Get back into it. When you do your
travel, of course.
Oh yeah, travel.
Yeah.
Yes. Wouldn't it be nice to see each other in person? Shake hands even.
Yeah.
Doing this podcast for many months, maybe even years, it was my only view of noses and mouths for a while. It was really weird, but that's why we started doing the video on the Zoom, was because I was like, I haven't seen a face. Can I see your face? And then we saw faces, and then I realized the fringe benefits of like us being able to see each other, both for connecting and for, like I mentioned, audio. But at the same time, like, my whole life right now, like everywhere I go is just masked everywhere. And so when I get to see faces, like you might be the only face I see all day. You know what I mean? Like my child and you, and everybody else I see will be in masks. So it's really wild. I started going maskless at drive-thrus purely just to be like, do you see? I'm here. That's a super weird, like psychological thing that'll come up later. But I wanted to ask you about your community nights. You talk about getting people together. Do you do just a like social hangout? Like, hey, let's get together and talk about how much we love improv? Or is it like an improv jam? You get everyone up on stage and like see what happens. What are your actions for building community in your community nights?
It started off as a jam night. Now it's in 3 parts. So the first part is like a bit of a warm up or a workshop. And then the second part is the jam itself. So people can, take part in scenes so they can watch, if they feel like that. And then I've added a third part, which is shows. So for half an hour or 45 minutes, you can see some improvised shows. So, and I started that specifically because I wanted groups in Uppsala. I wanted to give them a stage to perform at, and get an audience. And I also wanted to promote people to start groups and start performing. And then it's also a way of having groups from other cities come over and show what they're doing. And like I mentioned before, if there's improvisers from abroad coming over, that they get to do something as well. But the idea was really for the improvisers in Uppsala to, if they're not already in a group, start a group, and here's a stage for you to perform. So that's the evening, and then it's very open. You can hang out around afterwards and chat, but it's very improv focused.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to like connect on that way and get some stage time for people who maybe might not have it or haven't had it in a long time, for sure. Do you have a space, like a physical space, or are you doing this like in the basement of a bar or a church or something? What's your location?
We have this one space called the House of Youth. It sounds like a cult thing.
Sounds fine.
But
Sounds fine.
Yeah. No one dies there.
It's okay. It's just the House of Youth. Don't worry about it. Are you over 40? Don't go there. It's not for you.
Yeah. Which is
just kidding. I'm sure it sounds much nicer in Swedish.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So yeah, it's basically run by teenagers, or I think you have to be between 15 and 25 to work there.
The House of Youth makes sense.
Yeah. But they have a stage. We used to be there, but now it just opened up a new theater here in town, and so we're moving there to have the nights there instead.
Ooh.
Yeah, which
like
is
a
exciting.
legit theater. Good for you. Good for them.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been great. I had the opportunity to be there, and with my limited crafting knowledge, help out with like painting and stuff.
That's helpful though.
Yeah, but it was really great to see it grow, because it used to be like this old, I don't know, like a garage or something, and then just to see it turn more and more into a theater, and then go that was, I actually went there for my first play when the restrictions ended.
Awesome.
And that was quite overwhelming, really. Yeah, that was really
That's
cool.
so great. So great. Well, you seem poised to be, a major player in, the artistic vibe of your town. And, you're working with the other artists to develop this community and to fill the theater space with like great work and a lot of support for one another. That's really awesome. What are you doing for yourself? Like, what are you doing to fill up your own creative cup? You are working hard to build the community in your town, but, you are also a human being in the middle of a pandemic, or fingers crossed, the tail end. And, and you're an artist trying to be who you are. What are you doing to fill up your creative cup?
That's a good question. I need some alone time every now and then. That's
same.
where I think I fill up pretty good. So I just need to be by myself. I'll watch movies, play guitar, play games, whatever. Just be with myself. I have to move around or I'll go crazy. So I work out fairly often, just to stay sane, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the main points. But then getting to be part of other people's projects are a big thing as well. So like before the pandemic, I would go to these students' nights, that they would put on just to be one of the students. Not having to, make the event happen or make sure everyone's there or hold the class. I can just go there and be one of them, which is very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is nice to be able to be a student again sometimes when you become a leader in a community, and then that's how people see you. It can be hard to find a way to do the other side of that. At this point, there's plenty of people in Austin that I've never met. So it's okay. I can go plenty of places where nobody knows, oh, you've been teaching for 12 years. So it's fine. Nobody's like, ugh. But at the theater where I teach, every time I would go to a jam, everyone in the jam would be like, oh God, I'm going to be in a scene with my teacher. And it was like, I am just also a human who's also just making things up. And I might also not be great at it sometimes. It's okay. Don't put so much pressure on me like, oh, she's going to be amazing. I can't possibly be a scene with her. It's like, please don't say that. That's not true. That's not a thing. But it's nice that, your town, you're allowed, have that freedom to move between. It's helpful for, I think, your creative juices to be able to go and actually keep playing and not just leading. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I don't want to find myself thinking, hey, I know it all. I think that's dangerous.
Yeah. Plus, like we talked about before, we're looking for the next ledge to jump off of. We're looking for the next plane to leap from. Like, we're just looking for the next crazy town to be crazy in. Like, so I don't want to learn everything because, well, that's impossible, but I'll try. And then I'll try to find something else wacky that I can do.
Right.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for spending this time and chatting with me about theater and creativity. This has been a great talk.
Amy, it's been awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad. Good. Thank you for listening to Yes But Why podcast. Check out all of our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.